Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Today is World AIDS Day. Every year, December the 1st is designated as World AIDS Day by the World Health Organization, WHO. It is one of WHO's 11 official global public health campaigns. The others are also all international days as well, such as World Malaria Day, World No Tobacco Day, World Immunization Week, etc. In this video, we're going to take a look at the history and timeline of HIV/AIDS, what we know about the virus and the disease, how we found those things out, and where we are right now with respect to HIV and AIDS. My name is Sandhya Ramesh and this is Pure Science. AIDS, or acquired immune deficiency syndrome, is the disease that is caused by the human immunodeficiency virus or HIV. It originated in Africa among non-human primates. This virus is thought to be the result of the closely related simian immunodeficiency virus or SIV. After mutating in non-human primates, the HIV virus underwent a zoonotic event and jumped from a chimpanzee to a human. For the longest time, we thought that this transmission occurred in the rainforests of Cameroon, but retroactive epidemiological studies of blood samples indicate that the transmission actually occurred in the southern parts of what is today the Democratic Republic of Congo. And when did this occur? Genetic sequencing and molecular clocking tells us that this zoonotic transmission, where the HIV virus jumped from a chimpanzee to a human, which eventually led to the human HIV epidemic, occurred in the early few years of the 20th century. How did this occur? Well, it's a common myth that sexual activity was involved. There likely was none. The easiest and now most widely accepted explanation for zoonosis is the bushmeat or the hunter theory, which is that since agriculture was very difficult in these African jungles, hunting was the more prevalent form of obtaining food. And through the process of hunting, people were exposed to a lot of animal viruses. In fact, we've since known that SIV transmission to humans is actually quite common through the process of hunting. The first wave of the human pandemic began in the 1920s in Kinshasa, the capital of Congo. Through the 1930s, 40s and 50s, AIDS spread through war-torn Europe. It took advantage of war damage and spread mainly, in fact, through infected syringes. Medically mysterious deaths also started to be recorded in the 1940s. The oldest HIV case on record today, which is the first one we know of now, is from 1959 of a man who died of AIDS in Congo. Analysis of his blood samples confirmed this many years later. And then in the 1960s, a variant of this HIV virus called the HIV-2 was found in West Africa. HIV-2 still exists today, but it's confined to West Africa. HIV-1 is the more virulent type and is easily transmissible and causes the disease in most people outside of Africa. Then later in the 70s, the disease spread through America and Europe. It killed men and women everywhere, and it had become a common practice to simply preserve the tissue samples of people who died with opportunistic infections in major hospitals. HIV, as we all know, targets the immune system and leaves you vulnerable to other diseases. The ones that latch on when the immune system is thus compromised like this are opportunistic, and so when people died of multiple opportunistic infections, doctors simply just took to preserving tissue samples to test later in the future whenever HIV testing becomes available to them. Through all of this, HIV was not really reported about much. The very first ever journalistic article about HIV/AIDS was in 1981. It appeared in a gay newspaper called the New York Native, where the journalist spoke to experts who rubbished the concerns that an exotic new disease was sweeping through the gay community. Now, this was a time when there was no internet and you only had newspapers or the radio or TV news. Communities weren't globally connected and emerging disease writing was also very slow. So while the paper was denying that this disease was spreading through the gay community and in public women were in fact also dying, sadly, unfortunately, the disease indeed was spreading through the gay community. In the mid-80s, AIDS phobia and homophobia went hand in hand. There was a lot of terror and sensation about this new disease that most people believed spread through contact. Those who got AIDS were stigmatized and shunned from society, suffering a terrible life. The gay community was demonized, and many members of this community who hadn't even come out yet started to die of AIDS. But even as the public continued to be unaware, the scientific community was making progress. In 1982, AIDS was officially defined as a disease that targeted the immune system. In 1983, the PCR technique was developed. This is the same PCR that we use in RT-PCR, the polymerase chain reaction that helps us amplify DNA and study it better. It was developed for AIDS and began to be used widely. In 1984, the cause for this mysterious AIDS disease was identified to be a specific retrovirus. By 1986, this retrovirus was given a name, the human immunodeficiency virus. 1986 was also the year that the first case of HIV occurred in India. But there was still much that was unknown, both to the scientific community as well as to the public. And in general, it was a terribly fearful time, especially if you were a gay man in the arts and entertainment world, because that's where the disease was spreading and killing the most. Healthcare workers were also scared. In many places, several HIV wards were understaffed, and the staff who worked in them also faced stigma. News reports from 80s constantly talked about the virus like it's some deadly alien hiding and waiting to consume everyone out of the blue. It was a terrible time in terms of public health. But in 1987, one woman came along and changed all of that. And you were exactly right if you guessed Princess Diana. In 1987, Diana was noticing that people around her were silently dying of AIDS, including members of her own staff. At the time, many men hadn't even come out yet. So she started to get curious and concerned and did her research. She understood the immense stigma around the disease and the rampant misinformation and the accompanying damages that these things caused. So she set out to destigmatize HIV/AIDS. This photo is the very first photo ever of a high-profile celebrity making physical contact or shaking hands with an AIDS patient without wearing gloves. If you see, you can only see the back of the patient's head, and that was on purpose. When Diana visited this hospital ward, all the patients ran from the media because of the way the disease was covered sensationally by the media, and they all feared for their families if their identities were revealed. This person was the only patient, just days from his death, who agreed to pose for a photo on the condition that his face was hidden and identity not revealed. This photo has gone on to become one of the biggest, most impactful moments in public health. Diana was a global pre-social media influencer. In an instant, she destigmatized person-to-person contact with individuals suffering from AIDS in a huge boost to public health and HIV awareness. The same year, in 1987, AZT or AZT, the very first antiretroviral drug, became available to treat HIV, and a vaccine trial also began. The next year onwards, the World AIDS Day started to take place. From then on, research has seen no stopping in growth. In 1982, a year after Freddie Mercury died and the same year that Isaac Asimov died of AIDS, the first combination drug therapies were used. Today, the most common one we know is that, of course, of lopinavir/ritonavir from our early experiments with COVID. But in 1995, Saquinavir, a new protease inhibitor drug, became available for use, which caused a sharp and drastic drop in death rates among AIDS patients. Protease inhibitors block viral replication. And in the next year, in 96, it was discovered that chemokines, a kind of protein, can block HIV and prevent the infection from progressing to AIDS. This Saquinavir discovery was a huge discovery which immediately led to a huge drop in disease rates. From countries and regions having millions of cases, it fell to hundreds of thousands. And then large-scale awareness campaigns also began. It is through awareness, destigmatization, and persistence that today a person infected with HIV can live a more or less normal, manageable life without ever having their disease progress to AIDS. But the science hasn't stopped. In 2007, the very first person was cured of AIDS. Timothy Ray Brown, also known as the Berlin patient in San Francisco, was cured through a bone marrow transplant. In 2013, we started to find that many people who were taking antiretroviral drugs were becoming functionally cured, where their body was able to isolate the virus enough so that the virus doesn't replicate and the disease doesn't progress to AIDS even when the drugs were stopped. In 2019, Adam Castillejo became the second patient to be cured, but by stem cell therapy. He is now called the London patient. And then in this year, in 2020, Loreen Willenberg became the third person to be cured of the HIV virus, but functionally and without any treatment or drugs. Her own body was able to figure out a way to lock away the virus in a reservoir, preventing replication and giving a functional cure. And these are still early cases. We can only hope to find much more positive news coming out of HIV research. HIV so far has killed almost 33 million people in total, and according to WHO, some 38 million people live with it today. Testing, diagnosis, therapy, treatment, quality of life, length of life, and everything associated with HIV has increased for the positive in the past few decades, as has awareness about the virus and the disease. Between 2000 and 2019, new HIV infections fell by 39% and HIV deaths dropped to 51% thanks to antiretroviral treatments.